So, welcome to the unit analysis and comparisons, my good friends at YouTube. I am going to preface this video more than I normally do for this, okay? So, I've gotten a lot of feedback from the past few unit analysis comparison videos, and we're gonna revolutionize this just a little bit more, okay? So, common feedback I see is stuff like, how do you have so much stats on these units? And I'll give one example, okay? We'll use one example right away. Right here. Oh, get that math out of there. Okay, let's use this one. So you're looking at like 45 res and some blue numbers there on attack and speed. Okay, what that means is merges, flowers, 2 airs, because there's a light blessing there and she should be used in AR, and 6 attack and speed, because those are the buffs that you should provide when using her in AR. That is why she has those stats. I assume that most people would understand this because that's just how you should use the unit based on how I'm giving the information, but I wanted to just show it anyways. A secondary change that we will do going forward is not only here with Louise, but when I make a comparison, I will, as requested by you guys, and we'll talk about these later in a moment, I will actually show the stats side by side with the same build. This was requested, even though I don't understand why you guys want this, but there it is. 2 speed more on Tanith, 1 attack more, 2 HP on Shanna, but they're doing exactly the same thing. And, you know, some people thought it was unfair that I was comparing to a naked unit, but that's not what the point of these unit analysis comparisons have ever been about. Context is important, guys. When you watch this video, you should understand why I'm making comparisons. And it's not because I'm trying to say the old units are better, hands down. The point is that the old units that I compare to are just more available. You already have them, you have ideal IVs, and they perform the same functions, and sometimes even better than these new units, in a lot of cases actually. And I just try to give you that information so you can make good decisions. Some of you may have already summoned on these units, and I sincerely hope you didn't, since the banner lasts a whole month, and they're not even bonus units yet. But at least I can reach someone out there that understands exactly why these videos have this sort of context. What exactly I'm trying to give you guys information. So hopefully some of you guys took that away, and going forward we're going to do closer look at stats comparison between new and old units. You could always find this on Game Press anyways, but I'll do it anyways for you guys because I love you. And we'll still do what I always do, which is looking at older units and how they can perform the same role as the newer units. That's what I'm going to say. Anyways, let's jump into this, okay? So first up, Fjorm. And Fjorm is, well, okay, wait, before we jump into this completely, last thing I want to say, everything I'm advising here is strictly based in AR. Top level AR gameplay, top 100, top 1K, tier 27. Okay, that's it. No PvE content. I'm not assuming you're doing this for PvE. Not arena, because arena is very straightforward in what you do. We're talking about meta AR, which has a dynamic thing going for it, and that's it, okay? So assume this is how you should use these units in that mode. And I will, again, give it in context for the unit itself, because it's different for everything. Anyways, now, finally, Fjorm. Fjorm is a good unit. Fjorm is an amazing unit, in fact, but you may not need her because you may already be performing really well in AR without her. If you're not, this is a good solution if you're not confident in your AI knowledge, or you don't have good support units merged up, or even really, you're not really using them. So I'm talking like a Versa, I'm talking like Loki, or, you know, you don't have like Kaden or something, or Korin to really support up a tank properly. So Fjorm is another support unit, and she does it really well. So she's an amazing unit, but she's a support unit. So do you need her? Maybe you don't. Like in my case, I'm still free to play, and I've hit tier 27 pretty much every week. I don't even have null C disrupt, by the way. I still don't have null C disrupt, and I've lost to fire sweep teams before because I don't have it. But that's why you have 3 charges of escape ladder for those mistakes. and for those teams that really hard counter you. Fjorm is a good solution for saving time. If you value your time, you don't want to spend too much time finding out a solution. I personally enjoy finding solutions for hard, difficult AR maps, but Fjorm is a good unit. You'll use her for that and make your life easier. But she's not required to get high rankings. She's just solid addition as a support unit. She also competes for that support role with other units like Aversa, Corrin, Kaden. She doesn't work that well against certain team comps either. There are still going to be plenty of team comps that can stack HP and compete with her HP, and there's going to be teams that work around her, double rally traps, double dancers, something like that, and flyer balls themselves aren't impacted that heavily. So Fjorm isn't your be-all solution for that sort of thing. She's just really good for the teams that are copy-pasted, and you just put Fjorm to lock down the dancer and call it a day. So that's just another support unit. You could probably have done the whole thing with Loki anyways, or your tank still might have been able to tank through things if you had something like Corrin or Kaden as a different support unit. Or if they didn't set up their rally trap properly, Aversa does a lot of value in making the other units around the rally trap dance unit significantly weaker. You see what I'm getting at here? Fjorm is good, but you have other options that are already doing good support as it is. Okay. Anyways, that is the build that you would likely use if you pick up Fjorm. Stack HP. She comes with HP attack, stack HP. You buff her with 2 airs or 2 Astra, whatever that might be. Use Martyr as a way to self-heal because you want to use the B slot to support in some way instead of using Lift to Serve. So instead of using Lift to Serve, you can put a Chill there or even Sudden Panic if you happen to get that. But Martyr is a way to self-heal her when she's taking damage from stuff like Upheaval or Bolt Towers or Savage Blows or residual damage like that. So yeah, basically use your B slot to support whatever you have. I recommend chills and whatnot. Ground orders is also pretty good. I don't even actually recommend taking that off. It's good for mobility, so just keep it there. But if you really wanted to, you could probably use a drive or, I don't know, panic ploy. That's also an option. Yeah, she's flexible, but HP is important. Stack that and use Martyr to self-heal. Keep your B slot open. That's pretty much all I'm going to say about Fjorm. There's really no other way to use her. This is the way to use her. Do it like this. Don't try to get fancy. She technically has a stat spread that could be an offensive healer in one way or another. She's pretty quick. She's pretty good attack. I don't know if she matches up to Hot Spring Sakura, but yeah, I mean, just use Fjorm like this. There's really no reason to use it otherwise. Next up on the list is Lance Flyer number 9004 billion, and at this point I've just copy pasted my comparisons from previous videos because it really has just become that. I don't have much to say. It's another Blue Lance Flyer. It looks to me like Thea at this point or Spring Marissa. I don't know. They all look the same at this point to me. So if you want your Blue Lance Flyer, please invest in either Shanna, Katria, Est, Florina, Cordelia. Just please don't summon for Tanith and try to use her that way. Here's the side-by-side comparison that we showed off earlier. It's a couple stat points here and there, but because mergeability and a preference weapon, you're just better off using all the other Blue Lance Flyers that you picked up thousands of copies for. Other examples, of course, include Shanna merged up. Shanna as a tank, actually. That's Shanna as a tank. So you could obviously use Slaying Lance and Noontime with Distant Counter on Tanith if you were brave enough to do that. You could probably mention me on Twitter if you want to, and be that one guy who actually uses a Distant Counter Noontime Tanith, and I'll give you a like, okay? For being that courageous to do that sort of investment. Anyways, and finally, like Katria, of course, similar stat spread, way better weapon, really good on a flyer team. The point of using all these flyers is you either put them on a flyer ball, or if you're going to use them on air offense, they should be running some sort of Gale Force build. Because otherwise they're not really supportive enough to do something like what Camilla or Aversa does. And they just have good speed, so you might as well use them with Gale Force. So that's exactly what you see here. Anyways, next up, we have Sigrun. So Sigrun, as I mentioned in the impressions video from yesterday, is cool because there's not a lot of Red Sword Flyers. She's unfortunately a 5-star seasonal exclusive, but there's not a lot. And the stat spread closely resembles that of Sheeta. So there's Sheeta for you. A low merge, lower invested Sheeta is actually an amazing Gale Force unit for Flyers because Flyers can't use Flashing Blade traditionally. So that makes Sheeta a very consistent Gale Force unit. I've seen plenty of people use Sheeta successfully because she has Flashing Blade in the A slot. Her attack stat is not relevant. Actually, her attack stat being low is more of a benefit than a detriment because you don't one-shot squishy units that might be in the front line, like Lilina, for instance, but you end up still getting your Gale Force off consistently because you don't kill them in one hit. You hit them twice, your speed is higher, she's not competing with attack. This is very important to realize, guys. Side-by-side comparison, yeah, you look at the Sigrun, you're like, wow, that's actually a good stat spread. Why don't I get her? You probably are thinking that, and I'd be inclined to agree with you because that is a good stat spread. But the thing is, it's not just numbers. You need to heavy blade check. You have to have more attack than the unit that she's trying to Gale Force off of. And on top of that, even if you did have more attack, you risk one-shotting a frontline squishy unit from like an infantry pulse team or something. So Sigrun is just less consistent than Sheeta here, and Sheeta's a 3 and 4 star unit. Basically, what I'm saying is the same as I said with Tanith and all the Blue Lance Flyers. There's no real reason to invest in Sigrun this way because someone like Sheeta does it better, just as all the Blue Lance Flyers before did. You could even use Pala, technically, but I think Sheeta is more consistent. So use Sheeta instead. All right, moving on. Come on. It's 2019, man. Did you honestly expect anything else? Does anyone not have Reinhardt at this point? Okay, when it comes to using ranged Cavaliers and AR offense, they do have a strategy. They do work. It's called hit and run. So what you got to do is basically hit units, dance, run away, run away. That's the best way to use hit and run calves. And we're going to talk about this with Louise later, but Reinhardt, it just puts out far more damage in a lot of cases because having a brave weapon is really good. Big surprise. He's also less reliant on buffs. All you really need to do is give him attack. But if you were brave enough to do it, then you would use Blarblade instead since it's the hardest hitting tome. So there it is, your side-by-side comparison of Blarblade on a 3 and 4 star unit in the pool right now and Pent. What do we see? Well, not much of a difference because what you have on the right side is pretty much a plus speed La Rochelle. And the unit itself relies on full buffs. On top of that, you could actually use La Rochelle as a mage tank as an added benefit considering her res is at 50. With 2 airs, of course, but yeah, that's pretty much what it is. If you're not gonna use Reinhardt, then you'd probably use a Blarblade tome and do your hit and run strats that way. Pent is honestly not that impressive. He's too closely resembling La Rochelle here. There's not really much way. There's nothing fancy you can do with him. Blarblade is better than the tome he comes with. He's pretty much here for fan service. I mean, that's what it is. I put the wave skills there as kind of a meme, because I don't think playing on turn 2, 4, and 6 is a good idea. I've mentioned this in plenty of other videos. I'm not a big fan of wave skills, but there is a slight benefit to them. Technically, you don't have to run your whole team with buffs, and if you run like attack and defense wave, then all you really need to do is run like someone with a speed tactic, for instance, and like res tactic, and that's already doable on someone like Seth pretty easily. You could just pair up Seth and Pent, and you're good to go. You wouldn't really need much more than that. You're free to use other buffs and such throughout your team comp. It wouldn't know if you would have space for it. That'd be the problem because you need dancers to do hit and run strats. But generally speaking, it'd be much easier to do those sort of buffs. So that's why I put the wave skills there. But yeah, you can just run stuff like attack smoke, savage blow, or attack speed seal, and they all work perfectly fine. And finally, probably the biggest highlight for me on this whole banner, and the free unit of course because she's not on the banner, is Louise. So Louise is undoubtedly most compared to Brave Lyn, who is technically a 5-star exclusive, but Lyn is for most people at neutral because they got him for free from the free pick. Some people don't have Lyn, so Louise ends up being very desirable in that case. I don't have Brave Lyn. I never picked Bravelyn for free. I never pulled her from the 10,000 banner she was on. So Louise is actually really useful to me because it's a strategy that I was not able to use, which is the hit and run strategy, which we talked about for Reinhardt. I do have a Reinhardt, but because he's blue, I don't feel he's as consistent as something like a colorless bow that could also just use Brave Bow, right? And most of the frontline stuff ends up being like squishy mages, so technically the bow calves are a bit better than Reinhardt hitting. If you want to talk about the comparison, of course, here it is. You get your +1 merge already from 2 copies. Unfortunately, Louise doesn't get an attack up from her first merge. She kind of is in the bow Loki, like Spring Loki situation where she has like almost a similar stat spread. But I wanted to really point out one very, very, very important thing about Louise here is that she is technically mergeable at your discretion. So you're not relying on pulling 5-star exclusives. And she has a better res stat and a better HP stat. Both very important things because res is good if you can't necessarily get completely out of range on a hit and run. It tends to be like mages who reach you, so her res stat can come into play. And second, the HP stat is very good against avoiding panic manners, tactics rooms, aversas, and just panics in general. So this is good because if people haven't upgraded their tactics room or panic manners or aversas aren't fully invested properly, she will avoid those way more commonly than Lyn. If, however, you do have Lyn at plus attack, then you should just use Lyn, honestly. Or even plus speed, she could probably outperform Louise in that case. But one thing you got to consider is there's an Astra season and a light season. So even if you have Brave Lyn, there's still going to be use for you of using Louise on the opposite season, which is Astra. So even for those of you that have Lyn, Louise is still going to be useful for you guys. I don't think attack speed bond is necessarily the best fodder anyways. It's more of like an enemy phase skill. And honestly, something like attack defense bond is probably better. So kill Rutger instead. Sake's Blessing is pretty good though for Lyn. I think that is what's going to set her apart, because sometimes you might want to be hitting things on the front line and not take retaliation hits. So Lyn does have a few advantages, and generally I think she edges out Louise a bit, especially if you already have her merged up or at plus attack. But all things considered, I think Louise does outperform Lyn in the high investment situations, which would be something like this. So what happens here, I'll give a little bit of a side-by-side, is I have two different builds. One is the Brave Bow, one is the Bouquet Bow. So the reason the Bouquet Bow is like this is because it gives HP, and it's still pretty good because it gives a Sparrow effect. So by being at 56 HP, this is in July, of course, this actually has more HP. She has more HP than both a max level Tactics Room and a max level Panic Manor. That's huge. She can also probably compete with some Aversas who aren't blessed. If a Aversa is not blessed, then she has, I believe, about 58 HP. So this means that Louise doesn't get panicked, and that makes her consistent because you can buffer up with stuff like Hone Cavalry from another unit and not fear the panic. On the other hand, Brave Bow on the left side, you could also reach 56 HP, but you need slightly more investment, which comes through the final merges. I think she reaches about 55. So you may need to use something like Summoner Support. Summoner Support is also the solution to bring Louise up to 61 HP if you use the Bouquet Bow build. And that would even completely nullify the effect of like a level 5 Tactics Room if that ever happened, or a level 5 Panic Manor. So in the long term, Louise actually ends up being pretty good because of that. She's not going to have as much attack as Lyn. She has 2 less, so a highly merged Lyn will still outperform her, at least in a little bit of damage output. But generally speaking, this is huge because she can avoid these AR structures that most people forget about. So I'm personally glad, and I'm going to be using Louise myself. I'm probably going to spend some grails for her, bring her up to +7 and +4. If you're wondering why those numbers are the way they are, it's because +7 is her, it's not the final point, merge point that gives her attack. It's actually +10, which gives her the merge, the final attack point. And 4 flowers, unfortunately, you need 4 flowers to bring her up attack stat as well. I have like 800 cav flowers, so I've never really used cavs that much. So in my case, it's like perfect for an investment. But yeah, Louise is decent. I don't think it's like another Rutger situation or a Har situation. Delthea just ended up being a slightly different May. So again, Delthea is not bad, but you know, this is definitely a unit in the right direction because you need to have 2 bow calves if you want to cover both season. And she's pretty much alternative Lyn, but mergeable at your own discretion. Plus, she's cute. All right, finally, let's take a look at the math. So, as with all banners, 4-person banners are the lowest, basically lowest value you can spend for orbs. But because they're seasonal, that means the only better value you'll get for these units is going to be on Legendary Banner, where they overlap with other units. So if you want the specific unit, this is technically the banner to go for it, unless you want to pick up like Fjorm here with like maybe Air or Alm in the future, or Doom. So whatever she ends up sharing with in the future, could be Grima as well, I guess, is where you got to consider in the future where you want those units. So Pent and Tanith, they come with some decent fodder here and there. I think like Pulse Smoke or something. I forgot who had it. But anyways, blue, because there's 2 units sharing, means that you have a higher rate of pulling either or. And Fjorm, of course, is about 156 orbs to pull a copy, but up to 343, which would definitely take away the allowance of a full month of free-to-play orbs. So because this banner lasts a whole month, you should wait until it overlaps with some of the newer stuff coming up, like the Astro Mythic, which would be almost in a week. We'll cover our Mythic banner predictions also in a few days for that. And then after that, you also have next month, we'll probably get another new Heroes banner. We'll also get maybe the preview for the special heroes that comes right after this. So make your decision with some time. And yeah, Fjorm could be really good if you're lacking that crucial support unit. Otherwise, Tanith and Sigrun should be a complete skip unless they're literally your favorite characters. Pent as well, to be honest. Fjorm is the only desirable unit here if you're trying to play in the high level AR. She actually makes hidden run strategies much better because the only way you get caught in a hidden run is through a dancer like Legendary Azura. So if you lock down Legendary Azura and you use somebody like Louise, there's already some innate synergy there that could pretty much cover most enemy teams just off of that combo alone. So there's definitely reason that Fjorm is good, and I'm not going to deny that she is. But with the Astro Mythic coming out, with Alm just being released previously, Fallen Heroes being as popular as it is, there might not just be any orbs for anyone to spend here until this month kind of elapses. Alright guys, that's it. I hope you guys took something out of this unit analysis and comparisons. Please stay classy, please stay cute, please, I'm just trying to help you at the end of the day. If you even watched to this point of view, thank you so much for doing that. I will continue to do these unit analysis comparisons the same way I always do, which is exactly as you saw it here. Hopefully you make some sound decisions in our game that we all love together. And with that being said, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let me know what you think of, I don't know, if I missed a specific detail, feel free to tell me. Thank you guys, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.